Caesar Augustus was a truly remarkable figure in history. He is known as the first emperor of Rome. His long rule changed Rome forever. He brought peace after many years of terrible civil war. This peace lasted for a very long time. Augustus was not just a soldier, he was also a clever politician and a great builder. He found Rome a city of brick. He left it a city of marble. His actions shaped the future of Western civilization in many ways. His original name was Gaius Octavius. He was born into a respectable but not very famous family. His life took a dramatic turn when his great-uncle Julius Caesar was murdered. Caesar named Octavius as his adopted son and heir in his will. This was a huge responsibility for a young man. Octavius was only 18 years old at the time. Many powerful men in Rome did not take him seriously at first. They soon learned this was a big mistake. He was determined and very intelligent. Augustus skillfully navigated a world full of danger. There were many political enemies and rival generals. He had to fight many battles. He made alliances when he needed to. He also knew when to be patient and wait. Slowly, he gathered more power. Eventually, he became the most powerful man in Rome. He did not call himself a king or dictator. He preferred the title pranceps, which means first citizen. This showed his careful approach to power. He wanted to appear as a restorer of the Republic. His reign, which lasted for over 40 years, was transformative. He reformed the army and the government. He built roads, aqueducts, and many grand public buildings. He supported poets and writers, leading to a golden age of Latin literature. Augustus created a system of rule that would last for centuries. His influence on the Roman Empire and on the world that followed is immense. Understanding Augustus is key to understanding the Roman Empire itself and its long-lasting legacy. He laid the foundations for an empire that would dominate the Mediterranean world for hundreds of years. Gaius Octavius was born on September 23, 63 BC. His birthplace was Rome, though his family's roots were in Velitrae. This was a Volscian town not far from Rome. His father, also named Gaius Octavius, was a praetor. He was the first in their family line to become a Roman senator. This meant the family was moving up in Roman society. Sadly, his father died when young Octavius was only 4 years old. This early loss must have affected him deeply. His mother, Artia, was the niece of the great Julius Caesar. This family connection would become very important later in his life. Artia remarried after her husband's death. Her new husband was Lucius Marcius Philippus. He served as consul, a high office in Rome. Young Octavius, often called Octavian after Caesar's adoption, spent his childhood in a well-connected household. He received a good education, as was common for boys of his class. He learned Latin and Greek. He studied rhetoric, which was the art of public speaking. This skill was very important for any Roman wanting a public career. He was reportedly a serious and thoughtful boy. He was not always in strong health, suffering from various illnesses throughout his life. His great-uncle Julius Caesar began to notice him as he grew older. Caesar had no legitimate sons of his own. He needed someone to carry on his name and legacy. In 47 BC, Octavius delivered a public speech at his grandmother Julia's funeral. Julia was Caesar's sister. His performance impressed many people, including Caesar himself. This was an early sign of his potential. Caesar started to give him small responsibilities. This allowed Octavius to learn about public life and military matters. He was being quietly prepared for a future he could not yet imagine. In 45 BC, Octavius joined Caesar in Hispania, modern-day Spain. Caesar was fighting the last of his enemies in a civil war. Octavius was shipwrecked on the journey. He had to cross enemy territory with only a few companions to reach Caesar's camp. This showed his courage and determination. Caesar was very impressed by this display of loyalty and bravery. It is believed that this episode strongly influenced Caesar's decision. He decided to make Octavius his primary heir. This decision, made in secret, would change the course of Roman history after Caesar's death. These early years shaped the boy who would become Augustus. The life of young Gaius Octavius changed forever on the Ides of March. This was March 15th, 44 BC. On that fateful day, his great-uncle Julius Caesar was assassinated. A group of senators, fearing Caesar's power, stabbed him to death in the Senate house. Caesar had become dictator for life. Many believed he wanted to become a king. The assassins thought they were saving the Roman Republic. Instead, they plunged Rome into many more years of chaos and civil war. Octavius was in Apollonia, in modern-day Albania at the time. He was studying and undergoing military training there. News of Caesar's murder reached him slowly. It was a shocking and dangerous moment. Many of Caesar's allies advised Octavius to stay away from Rome. They told him to renounce his connection to Caesar for his own safety. But Octavius was a young man of surprising resolve. He learned that Caesar, in his will, had adopted him as his son. He also inherited Caesar's vast fortune and, most importantly, his name. He would now be known as Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, or Octavian. This was a powerful name. It carried the loyalty of Caesar's veteran soldiers. Octavian made a brave decision. He decided to travel to Italy and claim his inheritance. He was only 18 years old. He had little political experience and no personal army. Many older, more established politicians in Rome did not take him seriously. They saw him as just a boy. Cicero, the famous orator, initially thought he could control Octavian. Mark Antony, Caesar's chief lieutenant, also underestimated him. Antony expected to be Caesar's main successor. He was not pleased that a teenager was now claiming that role. This set the stage for a long and complex power struggle. Upon arriving in Italy, Octavian quickly showed his political skill. He used his inherited wealth to pay the legacies Caesar had promised to the Roman people. He also began to recruit Caesar's former soldiers to his side. These soldiers were very loyal to the memory of their old general. They were willing to follow his adopted son. Octavian emphasized his status as Caesar's heir. He presented himself as the one who would avenge Caesar's death. This gained him popular support. He was playing a dangerous game. He was stepping onto a stage full of powerful and ruthless players. His early moves were crucial for his survival. Rome was in turmoil after Julius Caesar's death. Several factions were fighting for control. Mark Antony was a powerful general and Caesar's former right-hand man. He initially tried to take charge. The senators who had killed Caesar, led by Brutus and Cassius, had their own army. They controlled some eastern provinces. Then there was Octavian, the young heir. He cleverly used his name and Caesar's popularity. He raised his own army from Caesar's veterans. He presented himself as the champion of Caesar's cause. This period was very unstable. Alliances shifted quickly. To deal with Caesar's assassins, Octavian knew he needed allies. He initially clashed with Mark Antony. Antony viewed him as a rival. However, they soon realized they had common enemies. In 43 BC, Octavian, Antony, and another of Caesar's generals, Marcus Aemilius Lepidus, formed an alliance. This alliance was called the Second Triumvirate. Unlike the First Triumvirate, this one was officially recognized by law. It gave these three men immense power. They essentially became dictators of Rome. Their main goal was to hunt down and defeat Caesar's murderers. The triumvirs acted ruthlessly to secure their power and finances. They started a series of proscriptions. This meant they published lists of their political enemies. These enemies were declared outlaws. Their property was confiscated and they could be killed for a reward. Many wealthy Romans, including senators and knights, perished. The famous orator Cicero, who had spoken out against Antony, was one of the victims. These proscriptions were brutal. They eliminated many opponents. They also provided the triumvirs with much-needed money to pay their soldiers. It was a dark chapter in Roman history. With their power consolidated in Italy, the triumvirs turned their attention to the east. Brutus and Cassius had gathered a large army there. In 42 BC, the forces of Antony and Octavian met the assassins' army at the Battle of Philippi in Macedonia. It was a series of 2 engagements. Antony's military skill was crucial in winning these battles. Brutus and Cassius were defeated. Both chose to take their own lives rather than be captured. The victory at Philippi avenged Caesar's death. It also left the triumvirs as the masters of the Roman world. However, their alliance was based on convenience, not trust. It would not last. Section 5, Clash of Titans, the path to sole power. After the victory at Philippi, the triumvirs divided the Roman world among themselves. Octavian took control of the western provinces, including Italy. Antony went to the wealthy eastern provinces. Lepidus, the weakest of the three, was given Africa. This division of power was always going to be temporary. Octavian and Antony were both ambitious men. They saw each other as the main obstacle to ultimate power. A period of uneasy tension and rivalry began. They sometimes cooperated, but the underlying mistrust remained strong. Each man worked to strengthen his own position. Antony became involved with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. Cleopatra was a captivating and intelligent ruler. She had previously been Julius Caesar's lover. She and Antony formed a political and personal alliance. They had children together. Antony began to act more like an Eastern monarch than a Roman general. He held a lavish ceremony in Alexandria. He declared his children with Cleopatra rulers of various Eastern lands. This was seen as a direct challenge to Roman authority. In Rome, Octavian used this to his advantage. He launched a propaganda campaign against Antony. He portrayed Antony as a man corrupted by a foreign queen. The situation grew worse over time. Antony divorced Octavian's sister, Octavia. He had married her to try to cement their alliance. This divorce was a public insult to Octavian. Octavian then illegally obtained Antony's will from the Temple of Vesta in Rome. He read it out to the Senate. The will supposedly confirmed Antony's desire to be buried in Alexandria. It also named his children with Cleopatra as his heirs. This further inflamed Roman public opinion against Antony. Many Romans began to see Antony as a traitor. They feared he wanted to move the capital of the empire from Rome to Egypt. The final break came in 32 BC. Octavian declared war, but cleverly he declared it against Cleopatra, not Antony. This made it seem like a foreign war, not another Roman civil war. The decisive confrontation took place on September 2nd, 31 BC. It was a massive naval battle at Actium off the western coast of Greece. Octavian's fleet was commanded by his brilliant general, Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa. Antony and Cleopatra's fleet was large, but less maneuverable. Agrippa's forces outmaneuvered them. Antony and Cleopatra managed to break through the blockade and escape to Egypt, but their fleet was largely destroyed. Their land army later surrendered. The Battle of Actium was a turning point. It left Octavian as the undisputed master of the Roman world. Section 6. Architect of an Empire. The Augustan Settlement. After the victory at Actium and the subsequent suicides of Antony and Cleopatra in 30 BC, Octavian was supreme. He had no more rivals. The long and bloody period of civil wars was finally over. Rome was exhausted. The people longed for peace and stability. Octavian knew he could not simply declare himself king or dictator. Romans had a deep-seated hatred for these titles. Julius Caesar's fate was a clear warning. Octavian needed to find a new way to rule. He needed a system that maintained his power but respected Roman traditions. This was a very delicate task. Between 27 BC and 19 BC, Octavian carefully crafted what became known as the Augustan Settlement. This was a series of constitutional and political reforms. In 27 BC, he made a show of returning power to the Senate and the Roman people. He declared that the Republic had been restored. In gratitude, the Senate granted him new powers and a new title, Augustus. This name meant revered or majestic. It had religious connotations, but no direct political power. He also received the title of Princeps Senatus, meaning first man of the Senate. Later he preferred Princeps Civitatis, first citizen. This was the origin of the term principate for the new form of government. Augustus cleverly maintained the outward forms of the Roman Republic. The Senate still met, magistrates were still elected, assemblies still passed laws. However, Augustus held the real power. He controlled the most important provinces, especially those with large armies. He was commander-in-chief of all Roman legions. He held the power of a tribune, which allowed him to veto laws and protect the common people. He also gradually took on other important powers and offices. He ruled not through a single office, but through a collection of powers granted to him. This made his authority almost absolute, but it was disguised. This new system, the Principate, was a careful balance. It combined elements of the old republic with the reality of one-man rule. Augustus was careful not to flaunt his power. He lived relatively modestly. He always showed respect to the Senate. He presented himself as a servant of the state, working to restore order and prosperity. This approach was very successful. It allowed him to rule effectively for over 4 decades. He brought stability to Rome. He laid the foundations for the Roman Empire that would last for nearly 500 years in the West. His political solution was a work of genius. Section 7, Pax Romana, an era of peace and rebuilding. One of Augustus's greatest achievements was establishing the Pax Romana. This means Roman peace. After decades of brutal civil wars, Rome and its vast territories finally experienced a long period of peace and stability. This peace lasted for roughly 200 years. It began with Augustus's reign. This was a remarkable accomplishment. It allowed the Roman world to recover and prosper. Trade flourished across the Mediterranean. Cities grew and became more organized. People felt safer and more secure than they had for generations. The impact of this peace was enormous. To maintain this peace, Augustus reformed the Roman army. He created a professional standing army. Soldiers served for long terms, typically 20 to 25 years. They received regular pay and a pension upon retirement. This made the army loyal to the emperor, not to individual generals as before. This reduced the risk of civil wars started by ambitious commanders. Augustus also established the Praetorian Guard. This was an elite unit of soldiers stationed in Rome. Their job was to protect the emperor and the imperial family. He carefully managed the size of the army and stationed legions along the frontiers of the empire to defend against external threats. Augustus also focused on rebuilding Rome and its infrastructure. He famously said, "I found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble." He initiated a vast program of public works. New temples, theaters, basilicas, and public baths were constructed. He repaired existing roads and built new ones across the empire. These roads were vital for communication, trade, and moving troops quickly. He also improved the city's water supply by repairing and building aqueducts. He organized police and firefighting services for Rome. These improvements made Rome a grander and more livable city. The benefits of the Pax Romana extended beyond Rome itself. The provinces also prospered. Augustus reformed provincial administration. He appointed governors who were more accountable. This reduced corruption and exploitation. He encouraged the growth of cities throughout the empire. Roman law and Roman culture spread. This period of peace allowed for unprecedented economic growth. Agriculture, mining, and manufacturing all developed. The Mediterranean Sea became a Roman lake, free from piracy. This enabled safe and efficient maritime trade. The Pax Romana was the bedrock upon which the Roman Empire's golden age was built. It was a testament to Augustus's wise and firm rule. Section 8, a golden age, culture and construction under Augustus. The long period of peace and stability under Augustus fostered a vibrant cultural scene. This era is often called the Golden Age of Latin literature. Augustus was a keen patron of the arts. He understood that poets and writers could help shape public opinion. They could celebrate his achievements and promote Roman values. He, along with his wealthy friend Maecenas, supported many talented writers. These writers produced some of the greatest works of Latin literature. Their words helped to define Roman identity and glorify the new Augustan order. This cultural flourishing was a key part of his legacy. Among the most famous poets of this era were Virgil, Horace, and Ovid. Virgil wrote the Aeneid, an epic poem that became Rome's national epic. It told the story of Aeneas, a Trojan hero believed to be an ancestor of the Roman people. The poem linked Rome's origins to the gods and destiny. It implicitly praised Augustus as a restorer of Rome's greatness. Horace wrote odes, satires, and epistles. His poetry celebrated Roman virtues like duty, piety, and moderation. Ovid wrote elegant and witty poems, including the Metamorphoses, a collection of myths. Though Ovid later fell out of favor with Augustus, his work remained highly influential. Augustus also undertook a massive building program in Rome. He wanted the city to reflect its status as the capital of a great empire. He repaired many old temples and public buildings that had fallen into disrepair during the civil wars. He also commissioned many new, magnificent structures. The Forum of Augustus was a grand new public square. It included the temple of Mars Ultor, Mars the Avenger. This temple honored the god of war for helping Augustus avenge Caesar's death. He also built the Arapatius Augusti, the altar of Augustan peace. This beautifully carved monument celebrated the peace and prosperity he had brought to Rome. Other notable constructions included the Theatre of Marcellus and public baths built by his general Agrippa. Augustus encouraged other wealthy Romans to contribute to the city's beautification. He established a new standard for Roman architecture. Buildings became larger, more ornate, and made of durable materials like marble. This transformation of Rome was not just about aesthetics, it was also a powerful statement about the strength, stability, and glory of the new Augustan age. The city itself became a monument to his reign. The cultural and architectural achievements of his time left a lasting mark on Roman civilization. Section 9. The Divine Augustus. Legacy and enduring influence. Augustus reigned for over 40 years, a remarkably long time. He died on August 19th, AD 14, at the age of 75. By the time of his death, most Romans had never known any other form of rule. He had successfully transformed the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. His system of government, the Principate, provided a model for his successors for centuries. Future emperors would look back to Augustus as the ideal ruler. They often tried to emulate his policies and his style of leadership. He had set the standard for what it meant to be a Roman emperor. One of Augustus's most significant challenges was ensuring a smooth succession. He had no surviving natural sons. He carefully groomed several potential heirs during his lifetime. These included his nephew Marcellus, his stepsons Tiberius and Drusus, and his grandsons Gaius and Lucius Caesar. Tragically, many of his chosen successors died before him. In the end, he adopted his stepson Tiberius and named him as his heir. When Augustus died, Tiberius was able to take power relatively peacefully. This was a crucial test for the new imperial system. The peaceful transition showed that the Principate could endure beyond its founder. After his death, the Senate officially declared Augustus a god. This practice, known as deification, became common for emperors who were well regarded. A cult of the deified Augustus spread throughout the empire. Temples were built in his honor and he was worshipped alongside other Roman gods. This further solidified his legacy and the legitimacy of the imperial system. His name, Augustus, became a title used by all subsequent Roman emperors. His achievements were recorded in a document called the Res Gestae Divi Augusti, the Deeds of the Divine Augustus. Copies were inscribed on monuments throughout the empire. The legacy of Caesar Augustus is immense and multifaceted. He ended a century of civil war and ushered in an era of unprecedented peace and prosperity, the Pax Romana. He reformed the Roman government, army, and finances. He beautified the city of Rome and patronized a golden age of literature and art. He created an empire that would shape the course of Western history for centuries to come. Augustus was a master politician, a skilled administrator, and a visionary leader. His long and eventful life fundamentally changed the Roman world. His influence echoes down to our own time over 2,000 years later, making him one of history's most important figures.